Your neighbor's garden looks incredible, and it's not because they spent thousands. It's because they know tricks that 99% of gardeners have never even heard of. In the next few minutes, I'll show you 25 unconventional ideas that can completely transform your outdoor space, no matter how small, shady, or hopeless you think it is. Number 1. The coffee ground. Secret. Nobody tells you right. Every gardening blog on the internet will tell you to throw coffee grounds in your garden. It has become one of those tips that gets repeated so often that nobody questions it anymore. But here's the thing. Most people are doing it completely wrong, and then they wonder why their plants look worse than before. The mistake happens when you dump wet grounds straight from the pot onto your soil. 2 weeks later, you have fuzzy white mold growing everywhere, and your plants look like they want to file a complaint. Wet coffee grounds sitting on top of soil create the perfect environment for fungus. Not exactly the free fertilizer you were promised. The trick that actually works takes a little more effort, but not much. Spread those grounds on a baking sheet and let them sit for a day or two until they are completely dry and crumbly. No moisture means no mold problem. Then mix those dried grounds with crushed eggshells at about a 3-to-1 ratio. The eggshells add calcium and balance out the acidity. Together they make something your plants can actually use. Coffee grounds are acidic, which means they work best around plants that like things a little sour. Azaleas love them. Blueberries go crazy for them. Hydrangeas will reward you with bigger blooms, but your lavender will hate you for it. Know your plants before you start spreading this mixture around. When you apply it, think thin. No more than ½ inch around the base of your plants, and only once a month during the growing season. More is not better here. The grounds need to break down slowly, not suffocate everything underneath. Americans throw away roughly 400 million cups worth of coffee grounds every single day. That is free fertilizer going straight into landfills while people spend money on fancy products at the garden center. Speaking of things sitting in your recycling bin that most people overlook completely. Number 2. Newspaper weed barrier that actually lasts. Pulling weeds is nobody's idea of a good time. Your back hurts, your knees ache, and 2 days later those same weeds are back like they never left. My grandmother used to say weeds are just plants with a better work ethic than us. She wasn't wrong. But she also had a trick that saved her countless hours in the garden, and it cost absolutely nothing. Old newspapers, not the glossy magazine inserts, just the regular black and white sections. You lay down about 10 sheets thick, directly on top of where weeds are growing, or where you want to prevent them. Then you wet the whole thing thoroughly, and cover it with about 3 inches of mulch. What happens next is almost magical. The newspaper blocks all light from reaching the weeds underneath, so they die off. But unlike plastic sheeting, the paper breaks down naturally over the season. As it decomposes, it actually feeds the soil and attracts earthworms. You are killing weeds and building better dirt at the same time. The key is using enough sheets. Most people lay down 2 or 3 pages and wonder why weeds punch right through. 10 sheets minimum. Some folks go up to 15 if they are dealing with really stubborn stuff like Bermuda grass. This method lasts up to 2 full growing seasons before you need to add more. Compare that to spending every Saturday morning on your hands and knees, pulling the same weeds over and over again. The choice seems pretty obvious. If you are still getting the Sunday paper delivered like a civilized person, you have a steady supply of free weed control showing up at your door every week. Now, this next one sounds completely wrong when you first hear it, but stay with me. If someone told you to plant a tomato on its side, you would probably think they had been out in the sun too long. Every instinct says dig a hole, drop the plant in straight, fill with dirt. That is how we have always done it. But the gardeners who grow the biggest, most productive tomato plants do something that looks ridiculous at first. They dig a trench instead of a hole. Then they lay the entire stem horizontally in that trench, burying everything except the top cluster of leaves. The plant looks like it is taking a nap. Here is why this works so well. Tomato stems have the ability to grow roots anywhere they are buried. When you plant horizontally, that entire buried stem develops into a massive root system, instead of just the roots that were already at the bottom. More roots means the plant can pull up more water and nutrients from the soil. University extension studies have shown this method can increase fruit production by up to 50%. That is not a small improvement. That is the difference between having enough tomatoes for a few sandwiches and having enough to share with the whole neighborhood. The buried stem sits in warmer soil near the surface, which tomatoes love. They are tropical plants originally, and they hate cold feet. A deep vertical hole puts roots down in chilly soil where they struggle to get going in spring. Within about a week, that sideways plant curves up toward the sun, and you would never know it started out horizontal. It looks wrong for a few days, but the results speak for themselves. What you do right after planting matters just as much as how you plant. Number 4. The aspirin water trick for transplant shock. Moving a plant from one spot to another is stressful. Not for you, for the plant. Transplant shock kills more seedlings than most people realize. One day your tomato start looks perfect. 3 days later it is wilted and yellow, and you are not sure what went wrong. There's a trick that sounds like an old wives' tale, but actually has science behind it. Dissolve 1 regular uncoated aspirin in a gallon of water. Use this solution when you are transplanting seedlings or moving established plants to a new location. The key is using uncoated aspirin. Coated tablets take too long to dissolve and do not mix well. Aspirin contains salicylic acid. Plants actually produce the same compound naturally when they are under attack from diseases or pests. It triggers their immune system to fight back. When you water with aspirin solution, you are basically giving the plant a heads up that it needs to toughen up. 1 regular tablet per gallon is plenty. More does not help and might actually cause problems. This works especially well in spring, when you are moving starts from indoors to the garden. That transition from a cozy windowsill to unpredictable outdoor weather is rough on young plants. The aspirin solution helps them handle temperature swings, wind, and the general shock of their new environment. My neighbor thought this was complete nonsense until a late frost came through one May. Her transplants died. The ones treated with aspirin water survived. Sometimes the old tricks work better than expensive products. There is another cheap solution sitting in your recycling bin right now that solves a different problem entirely. Number 5. Milk jug drip irrigation for free. Watering plants seems simple enough until you realize you are doing it wrong. Most people spray water on top of the soil and call it done. The problem is that water evaporates before it ever reaches the roots. You are watering the air more than the plant. Drip irrigation systems solve this, but they cost money and require setup. There is a free version that works just as well for individual plants, and you probably have the materials in your kitchen right now. Take an empty gallon milk jug and heat a nail over the stove. Poke 2 to 4 small holes near the bottom of the jug. The heated nail makes clean holes that will not crack the plastic. Now bury that jug in the ground next to a thirsty plant, such as a tomato or squash, leaving just the neck and cap above soil level. Fill the jug with water once a week. The water slowly seeps out through those holes directly into the root zone. No evaporation, no runoff. Every drop goes exactly where the plant needs it. This method reduces water waste by up to 70% compared to surface watering. The roots grow toward the moisture source, creating a stronger plant that handles drought better. And because the surface stays dry, you get fewer weeds. 1 jug per plant is usually enough for tomatoes, peppers, and squash. For smaller plants, you can use smaller bottles with fewer holes. This is perfect for anyone who forgets to water for a few days and then overcompensates by flooding everything. The jug does the slow, steady work for you. Something else from your kitchen works in a completely different way. Tip number 6. Cinnamon, the antifungal in your spice cabinet. Most people walk right past a powerful garden tool every time they open their spice cabinet. Cinnamon is not just for apple pie. It is one of the best natural antifungals you can find, and it costs almost nothing. Damping off disease kills more seedlings than any pest. Your little plants can look fine one day, then suddenly fall over at the soil line as if someone pinched their stems. A fungus in the soil did that, and once it starts, it spreads fast. Dust the surface of your seedling trays with cinnamon before you plant, and this problem basically disappears. When you take cuttings from plants to propagate them, the cut end is an open wound. Fungus and bacteria love open wounds. Dip that fresh cut in cinnamon powder before you put it in soil or water, and you have sealed it. The cutting can focus on growing roots instead of fighting infection. Ants hate cinnamon. They will not cross a line of it. If you have ants farming aphids on your plants or making hills in your garden beds, circle the problem area with cinnamon. No chemicals, no traps, just a spice they find completely offensive. A $3 container from the discount store lasts an entire growing season. Compare that to what the garden center charges for fungicides and ant killer. The only downside is your garden might smell like a bakery in July, which tends to confuse the neighbors. There are worse problems to have. There is a test you can do right now with another kitchen staple that tells you something important about your soil. 7. The vinegar soil test nobody taught you. Soil testing kits cost anywhere from $15 to $30 at the garden center. They work fine, but there is a quicker way to get basic information about your soil using stuff already in your pantry. Grab a tablespoon of garden soil and put it in a small jar. Pour in half a cup of plain white vinegar. Now watch what happens. If the soil fizzes and bubbles, congratulations, you have alkaline soil. That means your pH is above 7. Plants like blueberries and azaleas will struggle there without amendments, but lavender and clematis will thrive. If nothing happens, you are not done yet. Get a fresh soil sample in another jar. This time mix the soil with some water first, then add half a cup of baking soda. If it fizzes now, your soil is acidic, below 7 on the pH scale. If neither test produces any reaction, your soil is somewhere in the neutral range, which is actually pretty good for most vegetables and flowers. This test will not give you exact numbers like a lab analysis would, but it tells you the basic character of your soil in about 30 seconds using ingredients that cost pennies. You can test multiple spots around your yard to see if different areas have different soil conditions. Often they do. Knowing whether your soil runs acidic or alkaline explains a lot. It is why some plants flourish in one corner of your yard while the exact same variety dies 10 feet away. The answer is usually hiding in the dirt. Another common household item does something very different for your plants. 8. Epsom salt isn't just for sore feet. Epsom salt has been around forever. People soak their feet in it, add it to baths, and use it for all sorts of home remedies. Gardeners discovered decades ago that it does something useful in the soil too. Epsom salt can be a simple, low-cost helper in the garden. The stuff is magnesium sulfate. Plants need magnesium to produce chlorophyll, that green pigment that lets them turn sunlight into food. When magnesium runs low, leaves turn yellow between the veins while the veins stay green. It is a very specific look, and once you recognize it, you will see it everywhere. Magnesium sulfate is the key nutrient involved. Mix 1 tablespoon of Epsom salt into a gallon of water. Apply this to peppers and tomatoes every 2 weeks during the growing season. Within about 3 weeks, you will notice darker green leaves and bigger fruit. The magnesium helps plants absorb other nutrients in the soil more efficiently. 1 tablespoon per gallon, applied at the soil level, is the right amount. Roses respond well to this treatment too, especially if they are showing that yellowing pattern between leaf veins. A monthly application during blooming season can make a real difference. Roses often benefit from the same simple feed. The important thing is not to overdo it. Adding more does not help and can actually create problems. Too much magnesium throws off the balance of other nutrients. Do not spray this mixture on leaves. Apply it at the soil level instead. Not more is better. My pepper plants in 2019 taught me this lesson the hard way. I figured if a little was good, a lot would be great. It was not. The plants looked worse than before I started. Sometimes less really is more, especially in the garden. The next idea goes back centuries, and it sounds strange to modern ears. Number 9. Planting by the moon isn't as crazy as it sounds. When you mention planting by the moon, most people roll their eyes. It sounds like superstition, something from the days before we understood how plants actually work. But farmers followed lunar cycles for thousands of years, and there might actually be something to it. The basic idea is simple. During the new moon through the first quarter, moisture in the soil tends to rise. This is supposedly the best time to plant leafy crops that grow above ground. Lettuce, spinach, cabbage, anything where you are eating the leaves. During the third quarter, energy moves downward. This is when you plant root vegetables. Carrots, potatoes, beets, onions. The thinking is that the plant's energy follows the same pattern and focuses on root development. It sounds like folklore, and for a long time that is what everyone assumed. Then a 2012 study published in the Journal of Applied Horticulture looked at germination rates based on lunar cycles. They found statistically significant differences. Seeds planted during certain moon phases consistently performed better than others. One study does not prove everything, but it is interesting enough to make you think. And trying it costs nothing. You are planting seeds anyway. Paying attention to the moon phase when you do it takes no extra effort. Even if the science turns out to be wrong, you are not losing anything. And if those old farmers knew something we have forgotten, you might gain quite a bit. Another piece of old advice that people get wrong involves banana peels. 10. The banana peel fertilizer you're making wrong. Someone probably told you to bury banana peels in your garden. Potassium for your plants, they said. Natural fertilizer, they said. The idea is right, but the execution is usually terrible. Whole banana peels buried in soil take months to break down. Sometimes they sit there for an entire season, slowly rotting while attracting every pest in the neighborhood. Raccoons dig them up. Fruit flies appear from nowhere. The plants you were trying to help do not get any benefit until long after they needed it. The right way takes an extra step, but actually works. Save your banana peels in the freezer until you have a good collection. Then blend them with water until you have a thick slurry. Pour this liquid directly around the base of roses, flowering plants, and anything that is about to bloom. The blended form delivers potassium immediately. Plants can absorb it right away instead of waiting for a whole peel to decompose. 1 banana's worth of blended peel per plant every 2 weeks during blooming season makes a noticeable difference. Potassium strengthens cell walls, which makes plants more resistant to disease and better able to handle stress. Flowers last longer, fruit develops better, the whole plant just looks healthier. This is especially good for roses, which are heavy feeders that always want more nutrients. They will reward you with more blooms and stronger stems. Feeding plants is one thing. Protecting them from pests is another challenge entirely. 11. Beer traps for slugs that actually work. Slugs are the bane of hosta growers everywhere. You plant beautiful leafy hostas, go to bed happy, and wake up to leaves that look like Swiss cheese. Those slimy little creatures work all night destroying your garden. Beer traps have been around forever, but most people set them up wrong and then claim they do not work. The setup matters more than you would think. Take a shallow container like a tuna can or a plastic cup. Bury it in the ground so the rim sits about half an inch above the soil level. That half inch is crucial. If the rim is flush with the ground, you will catch ground beetles, which actually eat slugs. You want to save those. Slugs will happily climb up and over that small lip. Beetles will not. Fill the container with cheap beer, the cheapest you can find. Slugs are attracted to the yeast smell, not the quality. They crawl in and drown. It is not a dignified end, but neither is what they do to your plants. Empty and refresh the traps every 3 days, or immediately after rain. Old beer loses its appeal, and rain dilutes what is left. Place traps near the plants slugs love most, like hostas, lettuce, strawberries, and marigolds. one trap every few feet in problem areas. You will be amazed and slightly horrified at how many slugs one garden can hold. Some garden tasks actually make your life easier by doing less. Every fall, people spend entire weekends raking leaves into piles, stuffing them into bags, and hauling them to the curb. It is exhausting work. And here is the real kicker. You are throwing away something valuable, and then probably buying mulch to replace it. Leaves are nature's mulch. A thin layer left on garden beds provides insulation through winter, protects soil from erosion, and breaks down into rich organic matter by spring. You do not have to do anything except stop cleaning them up. If you have a thick carpet of leaves, run over them with a lawnmower to shred them into smaller pieces. Whole leaves can mat down and smother plants. Shredded leaves settle between plants and do all the good stuff without the smothering. There is another reason to leave leaves alone, and it is about more than just your convenience. Lightning bugs have declined by 95% in some areas. Those magical summer insects that made childhood evenings special need leaf litter to survive. The larvae spend 2 years living in decomposing leaves before becoming the beetles we love to watch. Same goes for many beneficial insects, native bees, and butterflies. They overwinter in leaf litter. When you rake everything clean, you are removing their habitat. Your back hurts less. Your garden soil improves. The fireflies might come back. Sometimes the laziest choice is actually the smart one. When you have done too much of the opposite of neglect, there is a fix for that too. Overwatering kills more houseplants in container gardens than any pest or disease. The roots sit in soggy soil, oxygen disappears, and anaerobic bacteria move in. Root rot follows. The plant turns yellow, wilts even though the soil is wet, and slowly dies no matter how much you water it. There is a treatment that actually works if you catch things early enough. Mix 1 part regular 3% hydrogen peroxide with 2 parts water. That is the standard brown bottle stuff from the drugstore. Pour this mixture into the soil around the affected plant. Hydrogen peroxide is basically water with an extra oxygen molecule attached. When it hits the soil, that extra oxygen releases. This does 2 things. It kills the anaerobic bacteria causing the rot, and it adds oxygen back into the root zone so the plant can breathe again. You will often see bubbling when you pour it in. That bubbling is the oxygen releasing, and it is a good sign that something is happening. After treatment, let the soil dry out more than usual before watering again. The whole point is to break the cycle of soggy roots. If you go right back to overwatering, the problem returns. This trick also kills fungus gnat larvae, those annoying little flies that hover around overwatered plants. The larvae live in wet soil and die when exposed to hydrogen peroxide. Some of the best garden solutions involve putting the right plants next to each other. Plants have relationships with each other that gardeners have observed for centuries. Some combinations help both plants thrive. Others are disasters waiting to happen. Knowing which is which can make a real difference in your harvest. Basil planted next to tomatoes does something interesting. The strong scent of basil confuses and repels aphids and other pests looking for tomato plants. Old-timers swear the tomatoes taste better too, though science has not confirmed that part. Either way, you are growing 2 useful plants in the same space and protecting both. Nasturtiums are the sacrificial heroes of the garden. Plant them near squash, cucumbers, or anything else aphids love. The aphids flock to the nasturtiums instead and leave your vegetables alone. You might lose some nasturtiums, but they are easy to grow, and you would rather lose nasturtiums than your squash. Marigolds do something remarkable underground. Their roots release a compound that kills root knot nematodes, microscopic worms that attack plant roots. Plant marigolds throughout your vegetable garden, and you are treating the soil for years to come. Chives around roses help prevent black spot fungus, one of the most common rose diseases. The sulfur compounds in chives seem to create an environment the fungus does not like. None of this requires special products or complicated techniques. Just put the right plants next to each other and let them do what they naturally do. There is a way to start new garden beds that requires even less effort than planting companions. 15. The cardboard box garden bed method. Starting a new garden bed the traditional way means removing grass, digging up soil, fighting roots, and destroying your back for an entire weekend. There is an easier way that works better and costs nothing. Flatten cardboard boxes and lay them directly on the grass where you want your new bed. Do not bother removing the grass first, just put the cardboard right on top of it. Use plain brown cardboard without heavy printing or glossy coatings. Remove any tape or staples. Cover the cardboard with about 6 inches of compost and soil mix. You can plant directly into this layer right away. What happens underneath is beautiful. The grass, cut off from light, dies and decomposes. The cardboard breaks down over the season, eaten by earthworms who love the stuff. By the following year, you have incredibly rich, loose soil where there used to be lawn. No digging required. This method is called sheet mulching or lasagna gardening. It works because you are not fighting nature, you are working with it. The decomposition process adds organic matter and brings earthworms to aerate the soil. The cardboard also prevents weeds from coming up through your new bed. It is doing 3 jobs at once while you do almost nothing. All those delivery boxes piling up in your garage finally have a purpose beyond making the recycling bin overflow. An afternoon of laying cardboard beats a weekend of back-breaking sod removal. What you do after your plants are established matters, just as much as how you start them. Pruning at the wrong time costs you flowers. Every spring, someone in the neighborhood cuts back their forsythia in March, and then complains they got no flowers. This happens every single year. The same mistake, the same disappointment, the same confusion about what went wrong. Spring. Blooming shrubs like forsythia, lilac, and azalea form their flower buds the previous summer and fall. Those buds sit there all winter waiting for warm weather. When you prune in late winter or early spring, you are cutting off every single flower the plant prepared. You have basically given the shrub a haircut right before prom. The rule for spring bloomers is simple. Prune immediately after flowering. That gives the plant a whole summer and fall to grow new wood and set buds for next year. Miss that window, and you either skip pruning entirely or sacrifice the flowers. Summer. Blooming plants work differently. Roses, butterfly bush, and many hydrangeas bloom on new growth that happens in the current season. You can prune these in late winter while they are dormant, because they have not made their flower buds yet. New growth comes, flowers follow. There is an old test that helps you figure out the right timing. Make a small cut on a branch. If you can count to 3 before you see any sap appear, the plant is dormant enough to handle pruning. If sap flows immediately, wait a bit longer. Getting this wrong does not hurt the plant. It just means you wait a whole year to see blooms again. Something happening inside your house can help everything growing outside. 17. Cooking water is liquid gold. Every time you boil pasta, steam vegetables, or hard cook eggs, you pour valuable stuff straight down the drain. That cooking water contains nutrients that plants actually want. Pasta water is full of starch. Vegetable water has leached vitamins and minerals. Egg water picks up calcium from the shells. None of this is enough to replace actual fertilizer, but it's a free supplement that adds up over time. The process couldn't be simpler. After cooking, set the pot aside and let the water cool completely. Hot water kills roots. This is important. Once it reaches room temperature, pour it directly on your houseplants or into the garden. Potato water is especially good because it's loaded with starch that feeds beneficial microorganisms in the soil. Those microorganisms break down organic matter and make nutrients available to plants. You're feeding the soil food web, which feeds your plants. If you cook most nights, you generate enough free plant food to maintain a small container garden without buying any supplements. The watering you do anyway now comes with a bonus. There are a few things to avoid. Don't use water that's heavily salted. Don't use water from cooking fatty or oily foods, and always let it cool down first. My grandmother saved every drop of cooking water in a bucket by the sink. At the time, I thought she was being excessive. Turns out she knew exactly what she was doing. The kitchen provides another weapon against common garden pests. 18. The garlic spray pest deterrent. Commercial pesticides work, but they kill everything. Beneficial insects die alongside the pests. The balance in your garden gets thrown off, and sometimes you end up with worse problems than you started with. Garlic spray takes more effort, but it targets only the creatures you want gone. Aphids, spider mites, and Japanese beetles hate it. Bees and ladybugs do not seem bothered by it. Making it requires a blender and some patience. Take 2 whole garlic bulbs, not individual cloves. Blend them with 1 quart of water until completely liquefied. Strain the mixture through cheesecloth or an old t-shirt to remove the chunks. Add the strained liquid to a 1-gallon spray bottle and fill the rest with water. Let the mixture sit for 24 hours before using. This waiting period allows the sulfur compounds to fully release into the water. Spray it on plant leaves early in the morning, coating both the tops and undersides where pests hide. The spray needs reapplication after rain, since it washes off easily. Plan on spraying every week or 2 during pest season, and again after any significant rainfall. Fair warning: your garden will smell like an Italian restaurant for a day or 2 after each application. The neighbors might wonder what you are cooking. Vampires will definitely stay away. The cost is pennies compared to commercial products, and you know exactly what is in it. How you build your garden beds affects everything that grows in them. 19. Why raised bed? Depth matters more than you think. Raised beds are popular for good reason. They drain well, warm up faster in spring, and save your knees from ground level work. But most people build them too shallow and then wonder why their vegetables underperform. 6 inches of soil depth works fine for lettuce, radishes, and herbs. These shallow-rooted crops do not need much space below ground. But if 6 inches is all you build, that is all you can grow successfully. Tomatoes need at least 12 inches of soil depth. Their roots want to go deep, searching for water and nutrients. In a shallow bed, they hit bottom, spread sideways, and the plant struggles. The same goes for peppers, squash, and most fruiting vegetables. 12 inches minimum for these. Root vegetables require even more. Carrots planted in 8 inches of soil do not have room to grow straight down. They fork, twist, and turn into strange shapes that are hard to peel and cook. Give them 12 to 18 inches of loose soil, and they grow long and straight like they are supposed to. Building deeper costs more in lumber and soil. That extra $50 or so pays for itself within 1 growing season in better harvests. Think of it as an investment that returns dividends in tomatoes. Deeper beds also hold moisture longer during hot spells. The roots have somewhere cool and damp to retreat to when the surface bakes in summer sun. There is a timing trick that extends your harvest without building anything.